Hey guys, this is John, and guess what? We're playing multicast again in the 15-minute pool on ICC. Last time I opened with d4. This time I'm going to play it a little closer to the vest and play knight f3 against him. I'm just going to tell him good luck. Not that he needs it, but this is our second time playing. If you missed the first game with multicast, you can check it out. It's in my archives. It's a 15-minute game as well. He's actually offering, oh, he said U2 in the chat. That's the first thing he said to me ever. He's actually offering to go back into mainline theory. Let's do that. Let's play d4. Let's play c4. We had a really interesting semi-Slav in our last encounter. I'm going to play queen c2 this time. This is a sideline. It just defends the pawn on c4. I'm not expecting any theoretical advantage out of this, but that could be interesting. So g6, this move I'm less familiar with than d takes c4. In fact, I know next to nothing about this move. I think bishop f4 is probably a reasonable move, intending bishop g7, e3, and go from there. So let's do that. Simply because I'm not sure about g6, bishop g7, and I'd prefer to just do something I'm comfortable with if I'm not sure exactly how to play it. Okay, so I have the option of developing my knight through d2, which I might take. Could also just go to c3. It's hard to say where the knight will be better at this early juncture. And if I play knight c3, I fear he might go bishop e6. So let's go to d2, because that way I have three pieces pointed at the c4 square. My bishop, my knight, and my queen. c5 played right away. Okay, so he kind of loses a tempo. He's already played c6 and then plays c5, but he is probably opening the center at a convenient time. I mean, this is a Grunfeld-like position now, and he has this bishop on g7, so opening the long diagonal makes perfect sense. I mean, d takes c5 comes to mind. That's like the very first move I would look at in this position. I think I will probably do that because I don't like giving him the option of taking, so let's just take. My queen is misplaced on c2, though. I'm not happy about that placement. So he's just going to go knight bd7 and try to recover the pawn. Okay, so that's an invitation for me to take on d5 and have my queen communicate with the pawn. But then he attacks my bishop on f4. Not thrilled about that. b4 looks too crazy. I'm not going to want to open the diagonal right towards that rook on a1 even further when there's already stuff that has been knocked off the long diagonal. Probably bishop e2 is the safest. But bishop e2 is so lame. Like, he just goes knight takes c5, castle, bishop f5. And it's like, what am I doing? He's at least equalized there. It's probably better. I can play c6, just give up a pawn, b takes c6. It's not too appealing, though, as well. It's just like every line I look at, he becomes active. C takes d5, I'm back to looking at that move. Knight takes d5, maybe bishop e2. Make him prove that he has enough for the pawn. Granted, I'm losing my dark square bishop if I play that. Could also play c takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop c4. But then he has knight takes c5. So c takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop e2 instead. Maybe he can take on f4 and then play queen a5 is one possibility. I might be able to play c6. I think this move is probably best. Anything else just seems like way too easy for him. So let's take the plunge. Oh, he took down his flag. Pretty sure he had a Chinese flag not long ago, but multicast took that down. He's at 24:01, 15-minute, which is pretty good. It's probably number 2 on the list right now. I'll play bishop e2 more than likely. Like I was saying. Yeah, let's do that. I'll pre-move this capture. Remains to be seen if he'll actually play that capture. He might postpone it. But, you know, he could take and then play queen c7. And that attacks f4 and c5. That gets the pawn back right away, doesn't it? I could play c6 maybe there, just to try to sabotage his pawn structure, but once again, I think his position is going to be fine. I also played multicast in the 1 minute pool not long ago, so if you check out my bullet video posted today, you'll see that I played him 3 times. And I'm happy to report that I got 2 wins against him out of those 3 games. And we won't talk about the fact that 2 of those victories were achieved because he disconnected. His internet kind of crapped out. So I won because he just lagged out and ICC awarded me the game. So this is our 4th time playing today. No news as to who multicast could be. There's been plenty of speculation about it already. I guess I won't really go into it because it would just be rehashing the same old stuff. It's a strong player. I don't know if it's Magnus now. I kind of have my doubts at this point whether it is Magnus Carlsen. It could be, but it's a very strong grandmaster. Okay, knight b4. So attacking my queen, and queen c4 is the first move that comes to mind. Where are they going after queen c4? Because if they take on b2 attacking my rook, I play rook b1. That's not what they're looking for. So queen c4, knight c6 maybe? Or queen a5? Probably queen a5 is more likely. It's more active. So queen c4, queen a5. Knight b3, is that possible? Opening myself up to knight c2 or knight d3 double check, but I don't think that looks good. The other alternative to queen c4 is queen b3. Because knight takes c5 would lose his knight. So queen b3, again, I sort of feel like queen a5 would be the move, but maybe not. Maybe he would go back to a6, let's say. Queen c4 must be critical. Queen c4, queen a5. Let's do queen c4. I would love to avoid getting down on time this game. So last time, I think I managed the clock decently well against him. I mean, I was a little bit down on time, but nothing major. Okay, so queen a5. So what happens if I play knight b3, attacking his queen? He has all these double checks he can do. Knight d3 check, knight c2. And anytime there's a double check, you have to move your king because you can't take both pieces. But I can play king f1 in either case, and I'm controlling e1, so that's no problem. So if knight b3, what is he going to play? Queen a4? That puts himself in a pin, though. It seems weird. Huh. I don't quite get it. Knight b3. Knight d3 check, king f1. His queen's attacked, and I'm hitting the knight a couple times. Could he play knight takes b2 there? That would be pretty crazy if he could. That attacks my queen. And if I play knight takes a5, he takes on c4, and he's hitting my rook. So knight b3, knight d3 check, king f1, knight takes b2. I could move my queen, of course. I could play queen c2. His knight is semi-trapped, but I don't know. That's some very messy position. And I can't castle. If I castle right now, he's just going to take on c5 with his queen. And I don't think I have much. What if I play a3 in this position? If I play a3, is he really going to play bishop takes b2? He might. His pawn takes, he takes on a1 with the queen. A lot to calculate. So a3, bishop takes b2. My rook has nowhere to go that's safe. Knight b3. Again, that knight b3 move. Queen a4. Then I can take. So let's see that again. a3, bishop takes b2. Knight b3. Something about this sequence makes me very nervous, though. What about a3, bishop takes b2, rook b1? Out of the question? Maybe. Castling I don't think is going to cut it here. I think castling queen takes c5, and he's totally fine. Then again, all these more tactical alternatives I'm looking at also appear messy and perhaps not in my favor. a3, bishop takes b2, knight b3. Yeah, he could play queen a4, though, actually. I don't think I can play a3. I'm not going to play that move. Knight b3, back to that move. Knight d3, double check. King f1, knight takes b2. Yeah, these tactics seem to work in his favor. Hate to say it, but they do. All right, I'm castling. I really didn't want to have to play that move, but I'm burning too much time, and I didn't see anything good with a3 or knight b3. So now I'm anticipating a capture on c5. If he takes with the knight, I have a3. And then after this knight moves, I have b4. So he's probably going to take with the queen. It's always a bad feeling when you have to spend a lot of time like calculating some what looks like promising tactical lines, and then it turns out they don't work. And then you just play something that you didn't even really look at too deeply. That's what just happened here. It's a common scenario. But hey, if what you calculate isn't working, at some point you just got to tear yourself away and move on. All right, so queen takes c5. What am I going to play? Because he's still threatening b2. I could play a3 and just back his knight off. That might be the best thing to do. I was thinking about like rook a c1, but I'd like to get this knight back if I could. Kick it back, I mean. Plays knight c6 voluntarily. Okay. So if knight b3, where is your queen going? Queen b4 once again? Maybe. Not once again, but let's do this. Got to play faster. Queen back to d8. Okay. This is bizarre. Okay, so he's threatening to take on b2. I can play knight d4. What does that do? Knight d4, e5, I can take on c6. It's no trouble for us. Yeah, let's play that. It blocks his bishop, too. I didn't want to have to play rook b1 or something. That looks awkward. I have no clue why he didn't play queen takes c5, just recover the pawn. I was prepared to enter a roughly equal position if that happened. So if e5, I take on c6, and because I'm hitting his queen, he has to take back. And then I can move the bishop, so bishop g3. I'm up a pawn. Yeah, I don't see any reason to think I would be worse now. I mean, I'm up a pawn, so the onus is on him to prove that he's not worse. I'm just kind of baffled by these last couple moves. Multicast is like this, though. Sometimes I just have a real hard time predicting what he's going to do. That's why he's a good player. If I could predict his moves, we'd be more evenly matched. So if he takes on d4, am I definitely taking with the pawn, no matter which way he takes? Probably. Yeah, I'm going to pre-move that. Just to save the extra second or two. Nope, he does that instead. Okay, so queen c2. Queen c2, knight b4. Is that a problem? Queen e4 I have in that case. Yeah, so no problem. Seems to be the best available square. It's nice that this knight on d4 denies him the use of the f5 square, so he cannot play bishop f5. Yeah, against this I was thinking queen e4. Ah, he has f5 though, that traps my queen. Sneaky, sneaky multicast. Okay, so queen b1. It's awkward, it blocks my rooks, but at least then my d3 square is covered, so he can't jump in there. That would have been a nice trap to fall in for. Although I guess technically I could have played queen e4, f5, and then queen back to b1. I don't know if inducing f5 is a good idea or not. I don't have the time to assess the ramifications of that. So I can back his knight off with a3. This is the second time his knight has made an appearance on b4. Rook d1 is another move I'd like to get in soon, just x-raying his queen. I have a hard time finding a move for him. I'm not sure like what plan I would pursue if I were black, so I'm having trouble figuring out what to anticipate. I mean, I think as a default, rook d1 or a3 will be my next moves to consider. Maybe he'll do something like a5 and try to go a4, attack my knight that's on b3, because this is an awkward piece. It's kind of superfluous. It's on the square that my other knight occupies. Knight g4, okay. Rook d1 is my instinctive response to that. Any reason to do anything differently? Not that I can tell with 5 minutes on my clock. Because if he goes e5, I have knight e6, or knight f3 if I need it. Or knight c6 even. Okay, let's do it. Maybe he will go e5. Just make it crazy, given that I have less time. So e5. e5, knight c6, double attack the queen. Queen f6 though. Then if I take b4, he takes f4. I can go knight d5, attacking his queen and attacking f4. He has queen h4. I'd have to take on g4 at that point because he'd be attacking f2 and h2. He can take with his bishop, attacking my rook on d1. It's very messy. If e5, my best bet, my safest bet, would be knight f3. If I was unsure about knight jumps like knight c6 or knight e6, yeah, and he plays it. It's probably a good decision. It's knight e6, queen f6. If I take f8, he takes f4. My knight's not getting out. I know this move appears so passive, but I don't want to sit here for another minute and a half or 2 minutes deciding whether I can do something with a different knight move. I'd rather just gain the tempo on his queen and safeguard my bishop. Yeah, now bishop g3. So I'm x-raying his queen. He can't take on c5 because it's guarded by my knight. Maybe I can go h3 next to kick his knight away. I feel like his knights are encroaching on my position. I mean, they're a move or two away from just having to go back from where they came, but for the moment, they do create problems. Yeah, h3 and a3 would be both nice to get in. h3 especially, because then he can't go to f6, because I can win the e5 pawn, like bishop takes e5. Bishop f5, by the way, will be met by e4. Is my plan. a5, huh? I was speculating whether he would try that move. Okay, so h3, are you going to play a4? And do I care? No, I decided I don't. We're just doing this. Because if I play a3, bishop e6 might be okay. Okay, he's going here. He's going to try to come to f5, I see. a3. Maybe a3 is alright. Let's do a3 for now. Kicking both of his knights back. You can go knight a6. Or knight c6. If he plays knight c6, it would indicate he's not too worried about getting the c5 pawn back. And apparently he hasn't been worried about that for a while. Okay, knight c6, I'm thinking maybe knight d4. Knight bd4, that is. Would be interesting. Let's do that. Trying to exploit the pin on his queen. My knight was poorly placed on b3 anyways, so give that a shot. And if he takes with his knight, I get to take with a pawn, which should be perfect, because then I attack e5 3 times, and I'm defending c5. If knight f5, I can just trade. Knight takes f5, bishop takes f5, e4, or move my queen even. For once in this game, I actually like my position. I think it's okay. Queen e7 might not be bad. Maybe he'll play queen e7. That gets out of the pin, and a trade on c6 is not terrible news for him because he does gain the open b file, and I'm a long way from being able to use my b2 pawn to any effect. So yeah, queen e7 is a definite possibility right now. I would have to take on c6 then. So knight takes c6, b takes c6. My c5 pawn is under attack, so probably queen c2. Knight f5. Maybe bishop h2. I'm up a pawn, at least. I have that to show for it. He goes there instead, okay. Let's take. Takes with the bishop. What about bishop d3 right now? Bishop d3, he'll probably withdraw his bishop. e4, I weaken the d4 square. But, maybe that's alright under the circumstances. I'd really like to play b4 is what I'd love to do. e4, bishop e6, b4, take. Takes on b4 at the end with his knight. Annoying. Alright, we're just going to do this and then play queen c2 and try to go bishop c4 after he puts the bishop back on e6. It'd be interesting to play bishop e6, rook d5, hoping for bishop takes d5, e takes d5, but I don't think that's a good idea, so I'll just do this. I mean, he might clamp me with a4, but I do have bishop c4 then. That's hopefully my next move. Trade the light square bishops. Push is coming to shove on the clock. So he's got about a minute advantage. What is up with that move? Queen c8. I don't get that move either. Is he going to sack on h3? That can't possibly work. What's going on? I'll just do this. He doesn't have enough firepower to sack on h3. Really doubt if he would play that. We'll pre-move that. Not sure if he'll play it, but I can get my rook into d6. Okay, take it. He's going to take with a pawn, I assume. It's the only move. Take on e6 or bishop d6. Bishop d6, rook moves, e5 maybe. Could be good. Bishop d6. Okay, I gotta move. I really have to move. Oops, let's do that. If he goes rook e8, maybe bishop to that square, b5. So now I'm thinking this. Nah, let's go here first. I have a minute 30. I gotta hurry. Let's just defend everything. I'm decent at bullet, but multicast is even better than me. Let's take here now. Gotta pick up the pace. Rook a2 is possible, but I have queen there. He's in full-on blitz mode. I want to drop my bishop back if I can. Maybe march this pawn, or play rook c4. Let's go here. Just giving up my d pawn. Okay, we're in a rook ending. This ending is a draw. Don't know why he played it like that. So now I get to go after his pawn.
Check.
Just keep trying for now. It's still completely drawn.
Check.
Yeah, he can start checking me on the third
Check.
rank.
Check. Check. Check.
I'm not going to risk trying to win. Game drawn. Okay, so I got a draw with multicast. It was interesting. I mean, yeah, I held a pretty big advantage towards the end, but with that amount of time, I'm not going to start playing with fire. Just looking back over it, and we'll go through it again, but I'm pretty baffled by their decision right here to play knight c6, like a voluntary retreating move. Is there anything wrong with queen takes c5? I didn't see it. Well, let's have a look. So queen c2, this is just a sideline, but it's an interesting one. And as I said, I'm less familiar what to do about g6. I mean, I know that this is a setup for white. Bishop f4, e3, and knight bd2. Because like I said, if I play knight c3, then I think bishop e6 is a good option and threatening to take on c4. So knight bd2 is a good way to reinforce this c4 pawn. And c5, yeah, very Grunfeld-like move. So let's start with the engine. Let's stick it on here. So d takes c5. Play knight bd7. Well, the computer seems to indicate that white is much better right now. Well, after knight bd7 for sure. Who knows though, the position's volatile in the center. Rook c1 makes sense, because after rook c1, if they take, I can take here as the point, and I'm double attacking c5. So that would be acceptable. It's an interesting move, rook c1. Yeah, I like the look of that. It also gets the rook off of a vulnerable square on the diagonal. Okay, so I took on d5, he took with the knight. Bishop e2. Yeah, I was expecting knight takes f4. And I saw this line, queen c7. It attacks both of these pawns. That just seems like a simple way to recover the pawn and have the bishop pair advantage. Yeah, half pawn advantage to black. So knight b4, queen c4. Yeah, knight b4 is an inaccuracy. Didn't take on f4. It seemed to me that multicast did not play as well in this game compared to the last one. Last game, I honestly felt like I had no chance. The last 15-minute game we played, that is. We got a very theoretical position. I made one mistake after my knowledge of theory ended, and he was on top of me for the rest of the game. But this game, it seemed like I kind of, I don't want to say got him out of his element, but I don't know. I shouldn't read too far into this, because he could just as easily have played knight takes f4, and I'd be talking about a similar scenario where I make one mistake and he gets a big advantage. So I don't know what to read into that. I probably shouldn't read into it. Yeah, here I had a nice long think, didn't I? So this is my longest move of the game. Good 3.5 minutes at least on this move. Just wasn't sure what to play. Let's look at knight b3 because that was the first move I considered. But
Check.
yeah, this line, knight d3 check, double check, king f1, and knight takes b2. I thought it was possible for him. And the point is, if I take his queen, he takes my queen, and he's attacking a1. And as you can see, this is winning for black. So I was trying to decide whether I wanted to speculate on something like this, trying to prove that his knight is in trouble behind enemy lines, and also that I'm attacking his queen. But I don't think that's the way to go. Similarly, a3 didn't seem too clear to me. A3, bishop takes b2 is possible. I do have this knight b3 move, that's true. What if queen a4 here, though? I can just castle? Crazy. I guess he is pinned. Can't move his knight because I would win his queen. Bishop takes, rook takes, yeah, and I'm doing fantastic because I'm threatening to take on b4. Yeah, I mean, that's hard to see with this amount of time. I need more time to calculate that. You just don't have that in a 15-minute game. So I castled. And I don't understand why I didn't take on c4, c5. The engine also doesn't understand. So it seems like I retained some edge. I don't think I would have played queen b3. I was mainly looking at moves like a3. But queen takes c5 would be the natural continuation of his strategy. Note that knight takes c5 is running into a3, as I pointed out during the game. Because if he moves his knight somewhere, let's say here, b4 is a double attack. And I'll get 2 minor pieces for the rook on a1 at the very least. So instead of that, he played somewhat baffling move, knight back to c6, and here I got knight b3 in, attacking his queen and defending b3, c5, that is. And here I thought he might try queen b4, just inching closer. Because if I trade, b2 is still a problem. Even here, though, white's out of the woods somewhat. So knight b3, queen d8. Yeah, looks like my knight bd4 move was good. Yeah, I have a solid advantage at this point. I've consolidated my pawn. Queen e4 is good according to the engine. Yeah, I just dismissed it as soon as I saw this one. I actually have knight takes f5. Yeah, didn't see that move. With the queen attacking the b4 knight. Discovered attack. Didn't see that. Yeah, queen e4, otherwise that would have been a higher candidate move for me. Yeah, I wish I would have noticed that detail about the hanging knight on b4. I just retreated to b1. I sense that this counterplay he was getting was not enough. It felt almost coffee house, if you wish. But I also knew that he was going to bring the heat with me having under 5 minutes. I'm playing a blitz game right now. Yeah, and this move is safe to play, rook d1, it seems. Plays e5, but... Yeah, okay, so here's an interesting psychological moment. Because I think I could have lost this game if I had speculated on some more complicated move right here. So, for instance, like a move like knight c6. Computer says queen e8. I was looking at this. I guess I have rook d6. But let's say queen e8. Let's just say he plays that. So if I go for something like this, I guess there wouldn't be anything to indicate that I have an advantage necessarily. But the point is there's all these tempting knight jumps, including knight e6 as well, by the way. But if I go for something like that, first of all, I have to calculate the ramifications of that move. And that might cost a minute and a half or something in itself. And second of all, it's going to make the position super complicated when I'm already up a pawn. So I know the engine likes knight b5. Now it's turning around and liking knight f3, but I think this is important that I played this move without using too much time. I still might have used it a little bit too much, but I played a safer continuation when I was up a pawn and hurting on the clock. And here, now I backed his knight off. So it seems like I'm holding a steady advantage for much of this. Knight bd4, I get to use this square again based on this. I thought he might try queen e7 in this position. Take, take. And now queen e4 is interesting. Okay. Attacking c6 and also attacking e5 3 times. Rook a7 is possible as a defense. Yeah, I think white should keep some advantage, though, for sure. I thought he might play that, but he played knight f5. I took on f5, he took the bishop. Bishop d3 was possible. I thought he'd just retreat back to e6, though, so I played e4 instead. He went bishop e6, queen c2. Yeah, I'd like to connect my queenside mass together, but he can take, and take on a1, and then take here. I can take on e5, though, huh? Yeah, that's another thing I missed. I missed at the end of this variation, this pawn is hanging. And maybe I can go into an endgame and pawn up. Yeah, something like this. Chances to win. So that's why I played queen c2 instead. Just trying to go bishop c4, especially before he's able to go a4, bishop b3. This move utterly confused me. I don't know why he played queen c8. Doesn't make any sense to me. Because he's not going to sack on h3. I gave him an opportunity to do so, and he didn't do it after bishop c4. So what point does queen c8 have? Just to be able to take with the queen on e6? I'm not so sure. But then again, his position is a lot worse here, so you know, maybe there is no perfect solution. But yeah, a move like queen e7 seems more normal, like getting out of the potential x-ray on the queen and still connecting the rooks, keeping those connected. Knight d4 takes. Yeah, this got a little bit weird. Bishop d6. I had 2 minutes left around here, and yeah, I was burning some time. I was trying to figure out how best to play this. I thought he would play rook e8 instead, because then he might be threatening bishop takes e6, queen takes or bishop takes c4, queen takes c4, rook takes e4. I thought that would be more challenging, but I guess I do have this move. I also thought bishop d5 might be an option. Trying to get him to trade, and at least I have this pawn here. I won't be losing it. Yeah, he played rook d8. I went rook c1, b6. Yeah, and I was under 2 minutes at this point, and he was getting lower on time too. And I missed when I played rook ac1, by the way, that he can flick in this bishop h6 move. That didn't cross my mind. Yeah, b4. There's some suboptimal moves being played. Like here I see I have queen takes, or bishop takes e6, and if queen takes, bishop c7, double attacking. Could get a little messy after d3, apparently, but you know, when you have this amount of time and you're playing a good player, you're not super concerned about playing the best moves necessarily. You're concerned about playing safe moves a lot of the times. So here I had to go back to b1, and he liquidated a lot of stuff. So yeah, in an OTB game, I'd definitely be looking to try to you know, squeeze something out of this pawn up endgame, and move like f4 is principled, stopping bishop e5. Because probably my bishop is a lot better than his. Like if he tries to trade it with this, I can always go e5 if I want, and make him give me a protected pass pawn if he does take. But yeah, in an OTB game, I'd love to have this position, try to take a crack at it to win. But you know, with this amount of time, I think a draw was fine by me. It's a decent result. A lot of it's based on the opponent, though, and they always say like you shouldn't play the opponent so much as the board, but it's hard when you're playing someone that you know is good and that has had your number in the past. Like if I had played this game against, you know, my average opponent nightly in the 15-minute pool, I'd probably be disappointed that I didn't win. But against this player, I'm not as disappointed because I know that if I push my luck, things could easily go awry. Yeah, and in this transition to the 4 versus 3, this is a draw. It is possible for white to try to play for a win in this endgame, but with accurate defense, black will always draw this endgame. I'm actually a little surprised they didn't play h5 right away, because this is the optimal pawn structure. f7, g6, h5. Yeah, I made one gesture to avoid like a repetition, but it was very half-hearted. I mean, f4. Just kind of reminding him like, hey, I have the extra pawn, but he has an extra minute 20 on the clock. And it would be very unfortunate to lose this game just by trying to win a drawn endgame and lose on time or something. So yeah, I'm happy with the draw. So yeah, always a pleasure to play multicast. and we had an interesting one again this time. I really feel like his play was stronger in the last game. I really do. This game, I felt like I was in it for very much the vast majority of it, and I was. Several confusing things in my eyes. Like one, that he didn't play knight takes f4 here. It seems like just an easy opportunity to get rid of my dark square bishop and then follow with queen c7 to attack both the pawns. That leads to an advantage for black, according to the computer. And then two, I'm wondering why he didn't take on c5. So right at this moment, I think this whole knight c6, queen d8 operation was very strange, and it allowed me to keep the extra pawn. Overall, very interesting game, though, and it's always a pleasure to play a strong opponent like that. So thank you guys for watching, and if you have any feedback, please leave it in the comments. I'll be back tomorrow with another 15-minute game. Bye, guys.